What's going on, everyone? It's Average THC Guy. Today we're going to be doing a bit of a grimmer story time than I usually do. I've told you before, but recently my friend Jay, who has been featured in a lot of stories, took his own life. And I wanted to make a tribute video to him as someone who's not only a reoccurring character on this channel, but as someone who is a very important part of my life. He's probably one of the reasons I do this channel today. And I really miss him. So I'm gonna do a sort of tribute video describing, how we met, our relationship, and tell you a couple of different funny stories. So, where do I start? Well, we first met in elementary school, and we instantly got along. We would go to each other's houses around Halloween time. We'd go to, like, trunk or treat, or his dad and him would wear these Halloween masks and try to scare me very successfully. We would play the same video games. We and even go to each other's houses to play those video games. We would play Ninja Turtles with fake swords. We would order pizza every Friday night. Um, he was even at my mother's funeral. And as we grew up, we stayed friends, even though we were separated by me moving about an hour away and going to a different school. But by high school, when I came back and he came back, because he actually went to another school also, we were the closest of friends. We really got along. Every time there was a party at my house, or Jay would be there. Whether it was Halloween, Christmas, homecoming, prom, New Year's, it didn't matter. He would even always dress up for Halloween as well. Uh, he would come, he would sing karaoke with us. Me and another friend would be sort of like a trio. He would shoot pool with me in the basement. He would try to drink more eggnog than I could, and probably try to drink more alcohol than I could. And he would always, we could always count on him to dress up for things like Spirit Week. I always loved doing Spirit Week, and I always participated, and it was no square either, so he ended up being right there with us. Whether he had to dress up as a greaser, a dwarf, or Spider-Man, it didn't matter. He'd even star in all the stupid movies I made. Then we went from going to each other's houses monthly, weekly, to daily. We saw each other all the time. And he wasn't at my house, I was at his. That's basically how it was. We would ride around in each other's cars, listening to 80s music, even watch the same Netflix shows together. There's one we never got to finish, and it's called Ozark. Great show. We watched it together, and one of the last things he ever said to me was he was mad at me for watching ahead. Sorry, guys. It pains me that we'll never get to finish it. And since his death, I've spent many nights crying over photographs and listening to sad music, staring at places he used to sit, just hoping he would appear. But honestly, I have a feeling that this is merely for myself, and that Jay would not want us to be sad, but more happy for him than ever, because he achieved a peace that not a lot of us can while we're still alive. He will always hold a special place in my heart. I have a feeling that this feeling will follow me for the rest of my life. I won't forget him. I don't want to. He was one of my best friends. And I think that it's only fitting for my Storytime channel to tell a couple of funny story times we had together while while he was still alive. And one of those stories would have to be one day in the summertime. my brother was at home and he was tripping sack for the first time. I gave him some mushroom powder, and because this was at the time when I was still dealing, and I then drove to Jay's house and he was watching that Ted TV show. I remember, yeah, and we both thought it was hilarious, and we were kind of bored, and I had brought some bud. So, but the thing is, I didn't bring anything to smoke it out of. So what we ended up having to do was I found an empty soda can and we made a pipe out of it. So basically, if you don't know how to make a pipe out of a soda can, you sort of uh crush it, like you bend it, and then you poke holes in it. You bend it so the weed will stay in place, and you poke holes so the air will come through. You take the little tab off the top of the can, and you sort of suck the smoke through the where you usually drink it. And so we did just that. I made it for him, and then we went out to his back porch where his damn dogs were barking at us, and we smoked out of a soda can. It was just me and him, and it was one of my favorite memories because it was just the two of us getting high and watching shit. That's what we like to do, and we did that not only once but two, three, four times. Um, we just whenever we felt like it, we'd go out back for a little smoke sesh, then come back in, watch Ted, shoot the shit, fuck around, and yeah, and that was one of my better memories with him. And another good memory I had with him, uh, there was a ton. There was the time John greened out. There was the time that um we tripped shrooms together for the first time. I have to tell that story soon. And there was this other time, probably one of the funnier stories. We had, it was like a Sunday morning. The Saturday night before, we spent just smoking some weed, drinking, watching some shit on TV. We were probably watching some like Ex Code or something like that. And it was just overall a chill night. Then the next morning, it was me, Marshall, and Jay. And the next morning, we did nothing else but we seshed. And Jay was actually confused how me and Marshall could smoke first thing in the morning, but I didn't think it was that like crazy, because probably when I first started smoking, I would be like into couch, man. I would be dancing and shit. I would not be fit to be out in public, but especially after my DUI, I'm worried about getting public intox. But right around the time when I had to stop smoking for probation before Jay lost his life, I I could smoke and just go about my day. I could go and do shit. If I had someone to drive me, I could just go and have fun. And so we were discussing that, and Marshall essentially said the same thing. And then I opened up this briefcase I had. Now, I was making a movie at the time, Coke dealers, and I had a briefcase full of these fake keys of Coke and these fake little dime bags. Where I showed Jay, and he said, "Is that real?" And I just kind of said, "Fuck it," and said, "Yeah, it is real. Pure Nicaraguan uncut." That's what I told him. And so I got out a dime bag, and I even myself gummed some of it to convince him that it was real. And I I then handed him the bag, and he was having some trouble actually getting. It was just table salt that was in the bag, and he was having trouble getting it out because the bag was so small. And so Marshall was telling him to lick his fingers, and he did that. And Marshall had actually had some experience with real you know stuff, and I and I asked him, "Hey, how'd you do it your first time?" And he said, "I snorted it." And that's how a man does that sort of thing. But I told Jay that it was uncut, so if you snorted it, you would get an infection in your nasal cavity, so it was better just to gum it. And so he did that, and I thought once he tasted it, the jig would be up. But no, he continued to think it was real for the next couple minutes afterwards. And I thought that was really funny. But then I decided to just tell him, JL, it's just salt. And he actually thought that it was real for a couple minutes. And it's not as funny now knowing how he died. He had a long battle with depression and schizophrenia, and he was self-medicating with kratom he bought online. And I'm not usually a violent person, but if I ever find the person who sold him those pills, I'd kill him. I know they were just doing their job, but he, my friend might have killed himself over this stuff. And I was scared because towards the end of his life, he said that weed wasn't getting him high anymore. And so I think that he might have moved on to kratom to sort of substitute that. And that made me feel really guilty because I was smoking all the time. And, I was really wondering if, he would have moved on to the stuff he did had I not been, taking bong rip 24/7. But I learned that blaming yourself for stuff like this does no one any good. But I just want to say that I just want to say that Jay was one of the coolest guys I ever knew. I'm sorry if I'm crying. He was one of my best friends. He was someone I did almost everything with. And I'm really gonna miss him. Well, I hate to say it after such a sad video, but like, comment, comment if you've had someone close to you lose their lives, and tell me some funny stories about them because that's how they live on, is through stories. Share this video if you know someone who's experiencing grief, and subscribe if you want more videos. Usually my videos are more lighthearted, but I couldn't find a way to make this any more lighthearted than just telling funny stories about him. And I don't know how else to end a video like this, but this video is dedicated to Jay. He will be missed.